Regional School District 8 Board of Education regular meeting, Monday, October 19th, 2021. We'll call roll call. I said 18th? I did? I read 18th. Thank you, Rob, the 18th. Judy?
Here.
Mary?
Mary Kuchevsky Marlborough.
Rob?
Hebron.
Jessica?
No.
Joe?
Joe O'Connor Hebron.
Lori?
Lori Blake Andover.
Jean?
Jean Wilson Marlborough.
Eric?
Eric Shevchenko, Andover.
Mike? No. Sue?
Sue Stoffing, Marlborough.
And I'm Kathleen Goodwin Hebron. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for all. Thank you. Public comments? Hebron and Marlborough community engagement and attendance at Board of Education public meetings is welcomed. The public comment segment of the meeting agenda is set aside. Board of Education may receive public comments. Procedurally, public remarks will be limited to 3 minutes, and citizens will be asked to identify themselves. Because the Board of Education is limited by the Freedom of Information Act to discussing only matters on the agenda, the Board of Education is not permitted to engage in a discussion of the comments presented. Do we have any public comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next additions or deletions to the agenda.
I have none.
Nothing to add at this time? Or delete? We have a new board member with us. Welcome, Eric Shevchenko, who has the pleasure of sitting next to.
Yes, I was going to make a joke that we just by coincidence had the same last name.
It is, yes.
It's a very common name around here.
A very, very common name. Yes, Lily is our cherished daughter. Very pleased to be able to sit next to her at these Board of Education meetings. And she can fill me in on the details.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So if Kathleen, you, Scott, Eric, or Lori, can anybody remind me about Andover? Are they on a different cycle with elections?
No, Judy, this is Eric's filling Stephanie Bancroft's term.
Correct.
Do you remember?
I thought that they got on a different month or something than some of the other towns.
That's true.
I had also filled a spot for someone that had to resign, right, Scott? And
Correct.
so that was why I came in June of 2020, and with Eric.
So Andover does hold their elections in June. May. So if election cycle, if there were openings in Andover, there may be a new board member joining us at the June meeting, but because Eric's filling in, he's coming in as soon as he's made available.
So they are on a little bit different of a schedule than Marlborough and Hebron.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I'll just mention that I graduated from RHAM in 1972. And Lily will be graduating this year, 50 years later. I grew up in Maryland, so I've been local entire life. Pleased to be here until June of 20.
Well, welcome.
Yes, welcome. Thank you.
Welcome, absolutely welcome.
And we also have our new Student Board of Education representative, Rowan Ackerlin. Hi, Rowan.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here as well.
We're happy to have you here. Anything you want to tell us about yourself?
Well, I'm from Hebron. I am a junior at RHAM, and yeah, I'm just really interested in applying when I got the message from Dr. Briscoe saying that they're looking for a junior to fill the spot. And yeah, I'm just really interested in hearing what you all have to say. So
We're looking for your contributions too as a student. So welcome, Rowan. Nice to see you.
thanks for having me.
Do we have a student rep report?
Sure.
All right.
Feel as though my thunder has been stolen because all the Shevchenko jokes have already been made.
Well, next time you come with a new one. We'll put it on the agenda.
I'll keep making them. But I just wanted to say that I'm once again glad to be here in person. Virtual last year was a bit of a train wreck for, I think, all of us. And I just wanted to touch on just a couple of happenings at RHAM, at least for the senior class. For those of you who don't know, there is on October 30th, there's going to be, it's outdoors. We have a tent and I think a DJ too, so that's pretty sweet. Everyone's really, really happy about that, especially I think the senior class, because we didn't have one since, we haven't had one since sophomore year. So this is a great way to sort of, you know, close out our homecoming season. And I meant to mention this in the last meeting, but we've switched from the block schedule to the 8 periods a day. And I think overall people are satisfied. I just heard a conversation today about how other people prefer the block schedule. But I think overall people are just happy to be in school again. And I totally feel the same way. For seniors, the college process is really, it is now crunch time, especially for early action. People are working on their essays and filling out their application. It's pretty stressful, but we're getting through it. And lastly, fall sports are now coming to an end, which would be like cross country, soccer, football, cheerleading, everything like that. And that's, or in volleyball as well. And so everyone's trying to soak in their last couple games and spirit days before the end of the season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rowan, did you have anything? I know we don't want to put you on the spot. It's your first time here, but it's up to you.
Well, just wanted to talk a little bit about like maybe stuff to do with like the Inquiry Academy with RHAM Middle School and or high school. So I think that, you know, because I remember I was talking with Dr. Briscoe about like, you know, potentially like cutting the Inquiry Academy and like making all the classes more inquiry based, and basically because there are less middle schoolers coming up every year, they might be looking to cut a team. And yeah, just like from my perspective of somebody who's like part of the Inquiry Academy, I think it would still be useful to have that program available. I don't know if like, maybe it can be like an extracurricular thing, like with genius hours and stuff. But I think that it's important, like for kids to like have the opportunity to like do some more of their like own learning through like genius hour projects. And I think that, you know, it would just be useful to have those opportunities available. And I think that when you're going into like you should also have the opportunity to continue this. So with some of those inquiry programs in some of the classes in high school. Just want to add that.
Thank you, Rowan. Board chair report. I don't have anything other than I was really excited about the level of spirit around pink and the volleyball game and all of the kids that came out girls volleyball team. And I still see that happening this month. I know there's some more pink activities coming up. I think my sons have to wear pink one day too. But I just love that the school is really involved in those social activities and bringing awareness to the things that go on outside of school and may impact other families and their spirit in collecting money and just types of things. So, it's nice to see kids doing things other than academics and getting excited about others. I do not have anything else for the board chair report. Of course, I welcome my board members if there's anything they have to share.
Well,
Your turn,
Thank you,
Scott,
Kathleen.
report of superintendent.
well, and I have to start by saying how really thrilled I am to not to begin my comments, a litany of all of the COVID challenges we may or may not be facing at this point and how that's impacting us. We really are feeling like we have met the challenge and up to this point been very, very successful. As was already mentioned, we are moving forward with some of our time-proven and well-loved activity. It was incredibly successful. We made over $3,000 in donations from the evening. We had a wonderful crowd in the gym, and it really felt we haven't had that type of event. It's been a couple of years, and as Lily mentioned, we have the homecoming dance coming. We're looking forward to this Thursday evening, our concert, our first in-person concert for band, middle and high school in a while. So we really are feeling like we're able to provide our students with those activities and events that we know are so important to the high school experience, the middle school experience. They look a little different, and we still are feeling like we're in a transition phase. So as Lily mentioned, the homecoming dance is outside. That's not something we would normally do. And we wouldn't want to have our students come to a really disappointing event and just stick them outside under the stars. So we really felt it was important to do what we could to make the event special. So very much like we did for prom last year, we're renting a circus tent to kind of keep everyone dry and warm. And it'll be lit, it has lights, it's got a dance floor. I have to thank our music boosters who reached out and with a generous donation to help with our efforts to rent the tent. As you can imagine, when the senior class organizes the homecoming event, they don't calculate the rental of a $5,000 circus tent into the mix. And so it is a fundraiser, and you're not going to raise a lot of funds if you're having to lay out that money. So Boosters' donation was extremely welcome, so I thank them for that. We're also utilizing some of our Besser grant money that was provided for COVID reasons, including social emotional learning areas, and so we're able to use some of that money to cover the expense as well. So I feel, I think we're all feeling very positive at this point that we're doing what we need to do, and as a result, our return to school continues to be overwhelmingly successful. So I'm thrilled with that.
How much does it cost to go to homecoming? Does it cost students money?
I don't have to buy tickets, so I don't have to
That's
ever
right,
worry
you're
about that.
kind
But
of
I can
a,
ask $20.
Is it? Okay.
We've started the budget process, started the public discussions yet, but we are certainly beginning the process. We've met with our coordinators to begin the process of developing their individual department budgets. Principals are beginning the process of developing school budgets. And so we're busy at work in terms of developing what eventually I'll be presenting to the board for the first time in December highlights maybe the bigger items that we're anticipating, some of the bigger savings we may be anticipating, and then a full budget presentation in January. So we are beginning that process and looking forward to a successful fall.
You said first this end in March.
So we typically, for the budget process, the first presentation in January, and then we typically meet once a week for 4 to 5 weeks for board workshops, budget workshops. And then we go to, we have our district meeting in April, and then the referendum.
Anything for Scott? Consent agenda. Approval of minutes from September 20th. That's enclosure 10.1. Anybody have anything around the minutes?
I just have a question for clarification, really. On the scheduling of upcoming Board of Education meetings, it's, I think, 11 on the minutes. The wording is, make sure I understand this, to let Scott Leslie know by email 3 days prior to any meeting if you'll be attending remotely or in person. So are we supposed to email him every month to tell him how we're attending, or is it just assumed that we'll be in person unless we contact him?
You know, if you would, I think what's people typically are contacting me if they're going to be remote, and that works absolutely fine.
Okay. Make sure I understood what we were required to do.
So to clarify, the expectation is that you're in person unless you email Scott.
Okay.
And that
Thank
should
you.
be done 3 days before. I know this is our first time trying to do it, so it's all good. But
Okay,
I think
thank
just that's a good question, Mary. Thank you. Request for unpaid 10.2. Oh, yes, we do. We need to make a motion to accept the minutes. Thank Rob.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of September 20th, 2021.
Anybody
Seconded.
second? Thank you. Any discussion? Judy?
I do not. Oh, do you want to vote? Yes. Yes.
I'm sorry, you guys. I just told Scott, I literally ran in here and I didn't feel prepared for this, and it's evident because
No,
I'm
you're
moving fast today.
fine. I thought you meant discussion. My vote is yes.
Thank you, Judy. Mary?
Yes.
Rob's?
Yes.
Jessica? Not here. Joe?
Yes.
Lori? Jean?
Yes.
Eric?
Abstain.
Mike? He's not here. Sue?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. And I appreciate your patience with me, guys. Request for unpaid leave of absence.
This is from our middle school nurse who I'll send our congratulations to her, just recently had and there's the baby's doctor is suggesting that she not put the baby in daycare for a while due to some medical reasons, so she's requesting an unpaid leave for the remainder of the year. So certainly a reasonable request. So in line with the contract.
Okay, it is. But we still need to make a motion on it.
Correct,
To
yes.
accept it, yes. So do I motion to accept the unpaid leave of absence for the middle school nurse?
I'll make that motion. This is Lori.
Thank you, Lori. You have a second?
I'll second it.
Who was that? I'm
Mary.
sorry, Mary? Thank you, Mary. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call a vote.
I,
Go ahead, Judy.
Kathleen, Scott, you received everything that you need that's proper for the request.
That's correct, Judy.
Thank you.
Anything else, Judy?
No, that's it.
Okay. We'll call a vote. Judy?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike is not here. Sue?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion passes. Old business. Fraud policy, 11.1.
If you remember, we did the policy committee presented the first reading of at the June meeting. And this resulted from our recent audit in which the auditor commented that we were missing a policy or fraud policy. And, I think we all take it for granted that fraud is illegal, and we don't necessarily need a fraud policy to outlaw fraud itself. But what this policy does is it directives for employees and those associated with the district for what are the appropriate actions to take in the event that you become aware that fraud is taking place. So this would be a new policy. It's not an amended policy since we did not have one in place. And again, this really is a brief policy that provides a roadmap should any become aware of or become suspicious of fraud in what steps they need to take. Without this policy, you're really leaving it up to people's best judgment. They might not know who they should go to report it or not. So this would be the second reading and an opportunity to make a motion to approve the policy.
Okay. And this was in the policy committee, I assume, came out.
This came out of policy in June, and this is the second reading, so it was provided as a first reading in June.
Do I have a motion to accept the fraud policy as reviewed by the policy committee in June?
Sure, I'll make a motion to accept the policy committee
To accept the fraud
recommendation of
policy?
the fraud policy.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second. This is Lori.
Thank you, Lori. Discussion?
Is this based on a standard out there?
Correct. So when we look at review our policies or consider a new one, we rely on our legal associates. They provide us with a template.
Gotcha.
Right. So the policies that you see are really rarely, if ever, actually generated from the administration or the board. They're typically generated from our legal team, and then we might modify it to specific needs. But it certainly ensures that boards of ed across the state are working with the same fundamental.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call a vote to accept the fraud policy. Judy?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Lori? Jean?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, motion passes. New business. Review, discussion, and possible action of the new music and social studies courses.
These These were presented to the program and then are coming out of the program subcommittee for board approval. There are new courses proposed for music and for social studies. Eric, do you know if is Bev Fisher or Jen Stoviak?
They both are.
They are, okay, great. So we have Bev Fisher, our music and art coordinator, who can certainly answer any questions regarding in class, and Jen Stoviak will be able to answer any questions regarding the social studies proposals. These are really, the idea is to provide additional student opportunities in the Opportunities Handbook. So these would both, these are all, well, most of the proposals are electives for new electives. Keep in mind that our students are working with a new state mandated set of graduation requirements, which require an additional credit for graduation and additional requirements for elective programming. One of the challenges we have at the high school is we're finding that with the new requirements for students to take additional electives, it can be difficult for some students to schedule those electives they need for graduation into their schedule. Having additional choices will help to provide more opportunities and choices for students. When new electives are approved, it doesn't mean that they'll necessarily be offered because they become now part of our program of studies. They're courses that students can choose. Simply because we add a new program doesn't mean that we're also adding staff. So it may be that we add 5 new courses this year and only 1 or 2 of them actually run next year based upon student interest or how well we can situate them into student schedules. We may find in some cases that we haven't made any staffing changes and we're finding in order to meet the graduation requirements of students that need to flesh out their electives, we might add a 6th assignment, or another section that would provide additional opportunities for students. But we're not asking for additional staffing with these requests. This is just simply asking to expand our program of studies and provide more opportunities, elective opportunities for students. And the keyboard class is one of the challenges I know that the music program has had is we have lots of opportunities for accomplished musicians, band, chorus, but we don't have many opportunities for more casual musicians. So if you are just, you have a passion for music or you have an interest in music, but you're not an expert, you may feel there's no place for you in the music department. The piano electives would allow for us to provide greater student participation with music, and it would be very helpful for us. And again, opening up one of the fine arts elective areas for more students. And Bev Fisher, I'll let you add anything to that I might have missed.
Good evening. We've always trying to find ways to bring more students into our wing to make music. We know the benefits of music for all of our students. And right now we are very accessible to students who are already engaged in music, but as Scott was saying, but we don't have for the me's of the world who would like to be involved. So to make it the music program much more accessible to all of our students, no matter where their abilities are, I think is really important for us.
That also is that one of the, because music is obviously you need musical instruments to make it happen. We already have the keyboards for this program, so.
Yep. They will replace the keyboard lab needed replacing this year. So it's been replaced with keyboards that are suitable for both the music technology classes and the piano classes.
Right. So there wouldn't be any additional costs.
No. Some piano books, they're minimal.
Does the board have any questions? Lori?
Thank you. I think these sound wonderful. I just want to preface with that. The more music we can get in, I think that's wonderful for students. I had a question in the last sentence of the first paragraph of the rationale. If the courses could expand to include piano 3 and advanced piano, allowing students not engaged in traditional band or chorus classes to participate in music classes all 4 years. So would this not be an option? I'm thinking of the student that takes private piano lessons, who is in band or chorus, but might want to take an advanced piano elective should that become available. Would being in band or chorus preclude them from participating in this? Is it like
No, and there'd be a semester class, so they're much more flexible to fit into their schedule. And that was part of our thinking, because we have so many of, our kids who are gone who are taking private lessons, that they would be able to access at the level that they're at when we add those other levels. So yes, that would be wonderful.
And so what would the prerequisite for a court, I know this might be from where we are tonight, but I found it really interesting and I have a personal stake in it. So I'm asking the question. How would a student get into like an advanced piano class? I mean, if you're thinking sort of halfway or 3/4 of the way through high school, keyboards was back in middle school, would something be worked out with the private lesson teacher? Like, how would that work if they didn't take piano 1 or 2?
They would, if they hadn't taken piano 1 and 2, but they've been taking piano classes independently, is what you're saying? So that they're at the level of going into 3, they would just have to, you'd be okayed by a teacher. They would come and play for the teacher just to assess that they're at a level, do the work for the class. That would be absolutely by the music teachers to assess.
Perfect. I think it's great to offer a piano option as a course in high school. I love that we have those keyboards. Piano isn't something that you typically see or that I've seen in a lot of high school as courses to take, but certainly a widely loved and popular instrument. So I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I love this. So accessible for our middle schoolers moving up too. It's already something they're comfortable with and they can build.
Right, and again, for the high school in particular, in letting us fill some additional, or help us to fill additional elective slots, this would be a real benefit for us as well.
Anybody else from the board regarding the piano 1 and 2 music classes?
Okay, and so has a number, they're a little bit more complicated than adding piano. So Jen, thank you for joining us tonight. The Social Studies Department is looking to do a couple of things. One is for our freshman and sophomore programs to expand upon our current global studies and Western European history, which tend to be fairly focused, and instead offer a more wider viewing World History 1, World History 2 program. That's a common, you're seeing that fairly common in social studies across the state. And then if you look at the materials, you see that the department reached out to students and investigated what being offered in other districts as well, and has a number of electives that they proposed. One, the African American and Latin American history is a required course. That's the course mandated by the state of Connecticut that we offer. We have to offer it, but it's, students we don't need to actually run it if there's not enough student interest. One of the challenges that all of us are having with this state mandate is that it's required to be a full year course. And for most of our students to add a full year elective is a real challenge, particularly if you're taking other full year electives. And so convinced that we're going to have a lot of students who are going to be able to fit that into their schedule anyway. I know that there's been requests from around the state of the Department of Ed to allow us to offer them as semester courses, but up to this point, that is not being allowed. The state is developing a curriculum for us to use so that RHAM won't be needing to actually curriculum. The 4 electives being proposed: genocide studies, minorities in America, sports in society, and women's studies. And Jen, could I ask you maybe just to do a real brief, a little more detail than I'm able to offer for each of those programs?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you again for this opportunity. Our efforts to move towards a world history for the 9th and 10th grade is really to provide a more comparable study. We found that at least the schools in our area were offering a world history course. And so for us, it'll be an opportunity to continue chronological sort of presentation of content that they're inheriting from the 8th grade. And we just feel that the more comprehensive approach will give students more of the cultural aspect, the economic, the social, political, but it'll be a much more balanced presentation of what's going on in the world from really the inception of history as we start studying it through the present. And additionally, the electives we're offering, you know, we do offer some fairly comprehensive electives, and they're always very popular, and we're very proud of that. But, you know, we've added a number of classes over the years since my tenure at RHAM. And again, I'm very thankful for that. But this past spring, we had an opportunity to poll our students, and we got almost 400 students responding. They really had a sort of broad area of interest, and we settled on a Minorities in America elective. And that's really to offer a comprehensive look at the achievements of diverse minorities in the United States, with really a focus on their achievements. Out of concern that we wouldn't be able to run the African American, Latin American class just because students are so strapped for electives and busy schedule. The genocide study class is one we've wanted to do for quite some time. It's always an area of interest for students. They're exposed to the Holocaust in both their English and social studies curriculum. So our approach would be more contemporary, and it would afford us the opportunity not just to explore the 8 stages of the genocide, but also the global community's response to it, the United Nations, and so forth. And it's really, again, not to focus on the macabre of it, but also to sort of we do as a society to try to prevent these events from happening. The sports and society class is going to be a whole lot of fun. It's really going to look at all facets of sports and the impact and the role it has on society, economic, social, political. But it'll also be a nice opportunity to explore areas of interest in sports that students might not have heard of or really don't understand how our society as a whole. The women's study, Herstory, is going to take a look at women from a global perspective and really look at, their capacity to overcome adversity, but also really just to kind of look at the human element of it. Women from all across the globe experiencing very different opportunities, very different lifestyles, and it's going to be a nice way for our students to that. So we are very excited about these courses. Our goal for next year is to offer them the new electives at the 9th and at the 11th and 12th grade level. And to be truthful with you, it's really all going to be indicative of my staffing. Our hope is to bring that down to some of those classes down to the 10th grade. We found that not being able to offer the child and development class, we see a lot more of those students moving towards our psychology, normal psych, our child and adolescent psychology class. So we want to be able to open up just more opportunities for our students, at least as early as 10th grade, to take some of those courses that we feel are most age grade appropriate in those electives. And that'll start them on
an opportunity to be able to not just take more, in addition to their graduation requirements, but, also to just kind of balance out their schedule. What we find with others is that they can't have study halls. They're so packed in their schedule that they have their lunch, between chemistry and labs and their, AP classes and, even study classes for some of our students. There's really just not a lot of free time. So our hope is that once we do this run through next year, that we'll be able to kind of broaden and open it up. But we're really excited for the kids that we can offer electives that really do their interests. So our hope is that we can get these off and running next year. I have a very motivated department who's willing to write the curriculum, and I'm confident that that's going to get done. I'm ready to work with Mr. May to get the Educational Opportunities Handbook all set. And so we're in a really good place. We have a nice timeline. We've been exploring through all of our professional development this school year so far, opportunities for us to take courses are available to us and just really look at the content that we want to consider for our classes. So I appreciate the consideration.
Thank you, Jen.
Sure, thank you. And if anyone has any questions, please just feel free.
So for the classes 11th to 12th grade, would those potentially be available for 12th graders?
Yes, the plan is to start them. I don't know which ones will run specifically fall or spring. I have to work with Chris Mader, but the electives will be, the curriculum will be written this summer and it will be ready to start. And the courses will be listed in the Educational Opportunities Handbook in January for students to start starting their classes at the end of January into February. So we'll offer these new electives and popular electives.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Anybody from the board have any questions, comments? Jen, thank you for your hard work and for organizing all of that. I just, my only thing.
Thank you
is
for
I'm
the
really-
opportunity for presenting.
Yeah, you do a good job, definitely. My only query is I'm just reading, the descriptions. And I guess for me, seeing words like, students must have a commitment to struggle through challenging material with only occasional instructional support provided. When I see that, I get worried, especially coming off of a COVID year. There are many students who need instructional. I just want to be sure that that is not limiting to anybody who does require support, even if it is a level 1 class. I know it's high school, but I still think kids who need support should get it. And, I would love to see that not say occasional. That worries me.
Sure. No, we always, we differentiate all the time for our students. And, one of the things we found is that, our students can do hard things. I feel like my students have come into this year, even my level 1, and they're all very prepared. And I know that it's different for every student. We're getting them, but we get them how we get them. And so we start where they're at, and then we do everything in our capacity to build them up. A lot of our level 1 students have 504s. Some of them even have IEPs that have similar accommodations to students that might be in some of our lower level classes. And that my teachers do a great job of supporting our students. And so we measure their success. We provide the feedback, the remediation, and the support. And we see a tremendous amount of growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So I feel very strongly that, students struggle. Some of the content is, mature content, but they persevere and they're really proud, and so aren't we. But I definitely appreciate and we absolutely accommodate all of our students. And we know that a level 1 class could be just as heterogeneous as a level 2 class. And so we meet them where we are and we support them.
And I think, Hvac, you bring up a really, really valid and I think really interesting point for us in that when we write these types of documents, they're kind of for perpetuity. We write them assuming, but we would never take a student who, only occasionally, like, well, you need more help than occasionally, so therefore you're not eligible. We're not working like that now. And, but to create wording that kind of fits our current COVID adoption then creates a very different document that, that may not be necessarily valid 5 years from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now. In practice, we're not limiting ourselves to this and saying to a student, you don't fit those qualifications, so therefore you can't take this course right now. We're recognizing that you may have struggled more than you ever have, and we're going to let you take these and challenge yourself with these, because we know that you and the rest of us are all coming out of this very challenging period. Point though, because if we don't keep that in mind, we would not be serving our students as well as we should, which I think is part of the challenge is putting the language into a document. So we don't want a document, 5 years from now that's reflective of what we went through now.
Even so, I do understand that students should be more independent if they're taking a higher level class, but occasional just sounds like you weren't a good fit for this class, or the child gets a C because they really did need more support, but they stuck with the class and, based on the level of instruction that the teacher had to do to support them. I would want it held against them if they needed more, know. Sometimes you don't figure it out until you get in there and see the content, so.
Yep.
For me, it's about the student and what they need.
So
Go ahead,
can I weigh in?
Ms. Clark.
I have mixed feelings about that, and I will tell you why. I have a daughter at WPI, which is a competitive school, and a lot of kids there are struggling, and she is not. And I honestly think it's because some of her RAM teachers graded her hard. Not that I want kids to be hard, but she was used to that and used to taking difficult classes. I've talked to Scott about that. So I do think our goal should be to stretch kids, but certainly, I think as support is needed, and Kathleen, I know you as an experienced educator would agree, it differs. So like I think there's got to be a way that we let kids know that but we do want them to gain that independence and that value. And I think it's just maybe communicating that to the kids.
Thank you, Judy.
I think,
Gloria?
I'm sorry.
Oh, please go ahead.
Well, I think because RAM does have leveled classes, we have a specific expectation with the level. Otherwise, if we were, if it was full heterogeneity, we would have the same course description. And we find that we do have students that want the honors class, and we do have families that want to have their student in a class that reflects a specific amount of rigor. But again, we really, with the exception of our advanced placement classes, we really don't have any prerequisite to take a class. If a student is recommended for a level and a parent will just override. And again, we get our students, and there may be some students who might get an A in a level 2 class because, they're high performing and that particular place is really good, but they want to challenge themselves, and they may find that maybe they're earning a B- or a C+ in the level 1, but they're really sort of proud of themselves. So I certainly don't want to give the impression that because we have, specific criteria and skill sets for that we are not willing to support students, because, we have students who are very much struggling learners, but their parents may want them in a level 1 class because of potentially the environment. And we work with those students and we help them, and we have a standard. And, our hope, even with our level 2 classes, we maintain rigor and we maintain standards. And I think that's why RHAM is, and maybe why Miss Benson Clark's daughter is, first of all, got into WPI, but is also very, very successful there. And so please know that we're going to support all of our students, regardless of the level and their ability. And if they are struggling and they want to stay in a level 1 class and they're struggling, but they want to persevere, then
Jen, you kind of faded. I think what one of the things I was trying to say is not that I would ever be totally thrilled or excited if my kids got C's, but some kids who go to college with her, they never ever got, and they're just beside themselves when they're not doing well. So, I think that's a long discussion, and I'm not saying otherwise. I really believe in both giving kids as much challenge as possible, but also being there to support them. And I think we're doing that. Jen, are we doing that we're challenging them, but or are we committed to that?
I believe we are. I mean, at the beginning of the school year, we all, the last few years, we've had a compilation of student videos. And one of the things that they always say, and we share this as a sort of positive for professional development, is that they're so grateful for the expectation and the rigor that RHAM offers, that they truly feel prepared to go to college, to not just critically examine things, but just their writing, understanding even simple things like effective citations, which could potentially get you kicked out of school. Like we have high expectations, and our kids meet them. Some struggle, but we always support our kids. Even a lot of our AP students this year, we found have 504 plans. They're requiring accommodations, and their teachers are providing them, working within what the College Board requires, but also supporting. They need their extra time if they need, to reduce their assignments. Like we're really doing all of that. I believe that we are. 7 through 12. I have a very, very strong department. I know my middle school teachers are doing that. The 7th grade teachers are getting kids from 3 different districts who are coming in at so many different levels, who this year haven't had a real school year since almost like 4th grade, and they're doing with our kids. And so I feel our department really does support and meet them, and effectively communicate with parents.
Anything else for Jen?
No, but I think, Kathleen, what you said is important. We want rigor and support, and they can go together.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Rigor and the level of support. You could exactly. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that I agree with that, Kathleen. I think when I hear you speaking, Jennifer, about the level of supports offered, I think the statement occasional instructional support, and even in the honors, minimal instructional support, shortchanges the support given by the faculty. And I think that there's a difference between, as Kathleen, or even at the honors level, and the expectations of what the assignments are and support that might be needed. You may have a student who is honors level in, a variety of subjects, and getting into social studies, for example, might be their first, exposure to it, and say they're a really physical science-minded person. They may need more support in an honors social studies course than they might in a physics class, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be there, not going to do. So I just think that those statements shortchange what the teachers are doing and have been pre-COVID and will continue to do post-COVID. and doesn't accurately represent what's, the need that's there. You don't want a student at any level to think, I'm not supposed to ask for support because this course description says this course, I shouldn't have to, and then go unasked and not do well as a result, because we know how that can have a effect on other courses, on mindset, in the immediate future, and then in the longer term future as well. So not that, I'm suggesting that you go back and rewrite this, and it's probably common language throughout many other courses, but just based on what you described, I do think that statement, I would like to see a focus on student behavior as opposed to supports being offered, because as you said, they're very individualized and you don't necessarily know what each is going to need until you have them in front of you each term. So.
Sure, we can absolutely consider. This is the language that we currently have for our level 1, level 2 in our honors courses. So we, in an effort to sort of stay consistent in case there was a concern from families. But yes, we can, the bold-faced words in there, we can absolutely reevaluate that or reword that. That's really not a problem, because I appreciate your, but also, that you recognize too that we are doing this. But I think our intention was that, like, the expectation, if you wanted to take this, you would be able to do that on your own, but perhaps the caveat being that obviously if you need the additional supports, that the teachers are willing to provide that, of course. So yes, we can go back and reconsider that for our world history. Our other classes, our electives are head, so it'll be a mixed bag in that regard, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And please don't, first-handedly, I know that the department does a great job of scaffolding and supporting students. I just think it should indicate that. And I agree about it being student behavior, because if students could do it independently, then we wouldn't need teachers. So I really think that there should be that you guys are doing exactly what you stated, which I know you do.
Absolutely. I'm glad to change that.
Any other questions or comments for Jen? Again, thank you, Jen, for your hard work. That's a lot of effort, and this has been going on for months, when you began the survey. So certainly appreciate all of that for our students.
Thank you.
Other questions or discussion? Okay, we need to call a vote. Do we want to do them separately with piano and then social studies?
I can do both together.
You're okay with that?
Yes.
Any other comments from the board regarding that? Okay, so I need a motion then.
I make a motion to accept the new courses as outlined in the board agenda for, let me just look at it. What does it say? Piano, piano 1 and 2, and social studies scope and sequence. No, what does social studies say?
Yeah, Judy, social studies doesn't list, not in the agenda, but the new electives, or
Okay,
new course offerings in social studies would be World History 1,
perfect. The new
World History
course,
2,
new course
Genocide
offerings.
Studies, Minorities in America, Sports and
Yep.
Society, and Women's Studies.
Okay, thank you very much. That's perfect.
Need that reread? You're good? Will you read it for us?
I was gonna go back to what you said.
Okay, you want me to read it again? Sure, okay, so the proposal is, the motion is to propose the acceptance of the new course offerings, including keyboarding 1 and 2, music department, and in World History 1, World History 2, Genocide Studies, Minorities in America, Sports and Society, and Women's Studies.
Thank you Do we have a second based on Judy's
Second.
recommendation? Thank you, Sue. Any more discussion? We'll call a vote. Judy?
Yes, and thank you, for the presentations. They were very helpful.
Mary?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Jen and Bev. Thanks for your
Yeah,
hard
thank
work.
you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion and possible action of the HVAC contract.
Okay, we're gonna switch gears a little bit
Now, just a tad.
from music and social studies to HVAC, which is just as important to our students as we will soon discover when we finish the locker rooms in particular. We'll all benefit from air-conditioned locker rooms. I think I can say that. And everyone will know exactly what I'm talking about if you walk down that hallway. So it's part of our capital projects for this year. We had the addition of air conditioning in the locker rooms, and then the coaches' offices, and then the upgrade and replacement of the air in the head end room off the media center in the high school, which is our IT center, and the dimmer room in the auditorium, which encloses all of the controls for our full range of theater lighting. We hired RZ Design Associates, which came to us highly used last year in last year's major HVAC project, which was very successful. So we were very happy with the services of RZ Design. They provide the bid documents and then oversee the jobs themselves. We had 4 bidders for this particular job, and I included those in the, I think I included them in one of my Friday as well in our board packet. Save More Cooling and Heating, the Nutmeg Companies, SK Mechanical, and Allstate Construction.
And Allstate.
RZ Design Associates reviewed each of the bid documents, and their recommendation based upon their experience and their review of the documents is that we accept the bid from Save More. One certainly is also beneficial that they were the lowest bidder. We budgeted $255,000 for the project, and Save More's bid came in at $234,800. So our recommendation to the board would be that we take the expert advice from our RZ Design Associates and Save More Cooling and Heating for our current HVAC projects.
So do we want to make a motion for discussion purposes?
I'll make the motion, just Joe, that we accept the recommendation from RZ Design Associates Incorporated more for $255,000 for the HVAC project.
234,800, Joe?
I'm sorry, my mistake. $234,800.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Jean.
Thanks, Jean. Discussion?
Is there a concern with the COVID and supply chain and like that? This can be completed over the budget year
I think you could ask that question almost about anything, and the answer is yes. Everything from food in the cafeteria to this. Yes, I mean, that certainly is going to be a concern for us. Mike Schlehofer, I'm assuming you're there, you're out there. That question come up regarding the supply chain and the impact that it may have on this particular project?
What was the question, Scott?
Is there, with all the supply chain challenges across industries, are there concerns from either RZ Design Associates or Save More or anyone else you're hearing from that might impact our ability to have the job done that we specified?
Currently, they feel that they're going to be able to stand to the 250 days.
Do you know if are they relying on supplies coming from overseas at this point, or are we looking at equipment that's already local to the States, do you know?
I know the HVAC for the locker rooms, that equipment is assembled here, I believe like Oklahoma. As far as the little mini split systems, I'm not sure where the origin is from there.
So we're getting assurances as much as we can rely on those, but it's an excellent question.
Yeah, the only reason I bring it up is if it's in this year's budget, we're not able to spend it, we have to bring it back as capital next year and provide some confusion.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, this is Jean. Could we ask our new member to speak a little louder? I'm having trouble hearing him.
Sure. What I was saying is that if we had a supply chain problem, we were not able to complete the project year, then we would have to go through this process again for the following budget year, which could, in capital, which could create confusion with our townspeople.
I see. So we would have to send it back out to bid again, is what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying is that money back into next year's budget.
I get it. I get it. Well, let's hope our supply chain issues don't stop the project just for that hallway.
Eva, have you, amongst any discussions amongst business managers, has that question come up at all?
So this money is coming from our capital improvement fund. Our capital improvement fund has the ability to roll forward. It doesn't have to be here. So if the process is already in place, it will move forward. The one plus is the contract that we're hoping that the board will allow the superintendent to enter into has penalties if the project is not completed. And to date, nothing has been noted about the supply chain issue, as Michael has stated.
Okay, so you are able to, or we are able to roll over capital to the
Correct.
following season. Okay,
Correct.
thank you. That's reassuring.
Any other questions or discussion regarding the HVAC proposal? Okay, I'm going to call a vote. Judy?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, motion passes. We're all excited that there will be something for that hallway.
Oh, I can't tell you how excited our students and athletes will be to know that they will be air conditioned. I think it's important to note too that this is a symbolic vote, not a symbolic, but it's symbolic of the efforts and the commitment of the board to ensuring that the RHAM facility be this facility that our students need and deserve, and that this is the last additional HVAC project. This covers the air-conditioned areas and really kind of closes that circle. So I have to thank the board in general for all of their support in these areas, in particular in areas like the weight room, some of our more troublesome classrooms, and the locker room. So greatly appreciated. Thank you.
I think it's our pleasure because I remember having that discussion a while ago. So that's why I don't hear much discussion now. Certainly the facilities committee has been, that subcommittee has been very big in supporting our students within the structures of RHAM.
Kathleen, I did have one question. When is the work going to start?
Mike, am I correct in that the actual installation is scheduled for the week of April vacation?
Either April vacation or they have to have the unit up on the roof.
Okay.
Anything else, Joe?
Just on that comment, so April, we're gonna put the ductwork in so.
The ductwork's already there, Joe. They would just be taking the old unit off and putting the new unit on and then hooking up the piping and electrical to it, which is a lot prior to the unit being removed. They're gonna do a lot of the roughing prior to the units being transferred.
But the locker rooms weren't roughed in before, were they?
What do you mean the locker rooms weren't roughed in?
So do we have ductwork going into the locker rooms? Because I thought this is part of the project.
Yeah, so we currently have ductwork in the locker rooms. They're ductwork. They're replacing the unit on the roof itself.
I think the question, Mike, is that in the locker rooms currently don't have air conditioning.
That's correct.
Correct. So the unit that they're putting on the roof is going to have a DX coil that'll have air conditioning. It's going to be a packaged unit that's going to go on top of the roof to supply air conditioning. It's not going to be running off the chilled water system that we have.
I understand that. Ductwork, how is it coming from the roof into the locker room and the hallways? That's ductwork, right?
Yeah, which we currently have ductwork. We have supply and returns for the locker rooms currently for heating. They're going to use the same ductwork.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, got it. Thank you.
Okay, financials.
All right, good evening. So in your packet, starting at 12.3A, you'll see the financials portion begin there. So for the net projection, the projected net projection as of September 30th, 2021, I'm projecting a net favorable position of $2,235. In addition to that, we finally saw the made a decision in our favor. So we had a lawsuit that has been in the district for quite some time that had to do with the staircase. We won the original lower court case. The contractor filed an appeal and we prevailed and won the appellate court case. So we received $26,500 in that settlement, and that was deposited into revenue. The state of Connecticut has our enrollments completed as of October 1st, 2021. Since that has happened, we're awaiting the magnet school, VOAG and VOTEC invoices. So at the next meeting, those should be paid and we should be able to see if there's any savings in that area. The pupil service department is constantly monitoring and ensuring that they're purchasing and or orders based on the IEP plans for each individual student based on any changes that occurs in those meetings. The Capital Improvement Fund is currently focusing on receiving and processing the payments of invoices. And then the Capital Non-Recurring Fund, Mr. Leslie and myself had a meeting today with Andrew Tierney and Elaine Griffin of the town, and we're just trying to finalize what is outstanding. There's a conduit issue that we had in the staff parking lot, visitor parking lot area, that we had of a contractor that had helped us isolate the issue, identify the problem, and has repaired the problem for us. And there's a bill of almost $9,000 outstanding. So based on our meeting today, it seems like we're going to be moving forward on paying that contractor. We just want the BB is aware that this money will be coming out of the retainage that is left to be paid to BB on this contract. So there'll be more news to follow on that. Are there any questions based on the items that I had spoken to currently?
Kathleen, it's Joe. Eva, how much money have dished out on legal fees for the stairs?
You know what? I'm going to need to get back to you on that. I know it's a sizable amount, and this settlement, I think, just may either have made us whole, or we still probably spent out a little bit more in legal fees.
Okay, I think that would be, I would definitely like to see that.
Sure.
And then the other thing on that whole subject, you know, since a lot of us are coming down off this board, I want to just emphasize the point that from a facilities perspective, this is a sort of a teaching moment, I guess, but that the mindset going forward, you know, we've always had it, but with that middle school stairs, it was very poorly, developed type of thing. We put in places to curtail that type of activity. And, you know, going forward, I just think that the future board needs to make sure that, you know, all these projects, whether it's internal or external, from my perspective only, is that that these projects are done right the first time. I think I've preached that a few times, but this was a very costly mistake to the district that's, you know, could have been easily, if the inspection process was done and steps were taken, permitting and so forth, this wouldn't have happened. So I'm just emphasizing that point to the board, and I see some people who are on the call here as well. I just, again, it bothers me deeply that we made a mistake like this. So that's all I'll have to say about it, but thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions? Okay, hearing none, the next item on the agenda is the RHAM Middle School and High School Student Activity Report. As of September 30th, the accounts balance with the bank, and we still have a positive outlook. The students now can get back into fundraising, and the classes can start building their coffers again. Are there any questions on the student activity? Okay, hearing none, the next item on the agenda is the food service monthly sales and expenditure reports. That is 12.3C in your handout. As a reminder, we're still operating seamless operation, which was brought up last meeting, was the question about the rates that we get reimbursed at for meals. So I included that in my memo. As you can see, under the SSO, the breakfast is $2.46 as compared to the National School Lunch Program, which we would be normally under, which is $1.89. And the lunch rate reimbursement is $4.32 versus the 3 cents. So every meal that is served we get a little bit more reimbursement for each meal. As you can see on the attachment or the second page of your handout, you can see that we did a wonderful job in serving in the month of September. So our total revenue has increased, and our net loss was a little bit less than the period that we had. So hopefully we continue to see this trend moving forward, and hopefully we can get out of the red and into the black sooner rather than later. But I'm open to any questions that the board may have on this topic.
Eva, just a question, we're serving free breakfast and lunch?
Correct.
Are there things that
Yes.
students?
So
Okay.
any student that would like a dessert, a second meal so say another student would like a second meal. So anything that's in addition to what is one of the 5 components of the meal, your protein, your fruits, your vegetables, ensuring that that plated meal is what is, so whatever the component is for breakfast and or lunch, whatever that first meal, you want an ice cream, a cookie, an additional piece of fruit, juice versus, or a bottled water versus the milk, then all of that would be additional charged as an a la carte item, a bag of chips.
Thank you.
Yep. Are there any additional questions on that topic? All right, hearing none. The next item on the table is the budget appropriation transfers for the Board of Education. That's item 12.3D in your handout. As you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 items that total $318,105.46 that will require board action. These items are based for the most part, changes in classification. In addition to, we had negotiations. So to take out of the negotiation line and put into the personnel lines to cover those negotiated settlements. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Eva, this is Joe. Are we following our policy on transfers? I think it's quarterly, right? Are we?
Yes.
Are we on the?
Yeah, so what was the board policy on transfers is, it's sort of quarterly, but not really quarterly. We have July, August, and September get done at the October board meeting. October, November, December get handled in January. January and February get handled in March, and April, March and April get handled in May.
Okay, so this is the appropriate time, right?
Correct.
All right, thanks.
Any questions?
Are these, I'm trying to relate this to my Board of Finance experience in Andover. Where are the funds coming from?
So if you look at the attachments, that the memo that I wrote, you'll see the actual entries that are in for each of these transfers. So the first one is journal entry number 7. And so as you can see, the money was coming from the general supplies and it went into equipment. So in essence, what happened on this one is that the money was budgeted under the supply line, but the correct object code that it should have come out of because of the dollar amount was equipment. So in essence, this was just between those two. It was still within athletics, but it was just transferred there. The next one would be the maintenance furniture and athletic equipment. Again, there was additional monies that was needed due to replacement cost. So we took some money out of furniture to help offset that cost. So again, the department coordinators will discuss transfers that are their own departments, and sometimes they'll go to Mr. Schleihofer directly to see if he's got money to help offset any costs that might come up. That the final approval for the budget transfer rests on the board, but to keep the district business moving forward, we approve them internally and then present them to the board for approval.
Okay, so you're able to transfer journal entry number 8, you're able to transfer from maintenance furniture to athletic equipment, or it
Correct.
could go the other way.
Correct.
And that's okay.
Yes.
I'm assuming there are some line items that where the money is assigned, and if it's assigned, then it would have to stick with that line item and then not fall in that category. Is that correct?
So that happens in our capital improvement fund and our capital non-recurring fund. The Board of Education are the only authoritative body that can transfer funds because basically they're allocated. So the appropriation needs to be transferred by the Board of Education in that regard. The budget, the operating budget as a whole, administration has the right to transfer object without board approval, anything going between two different objects. So that's the last 3 numbers in the account number, requires board approval.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions regarding the financial transfers from the closure 12.3B? Okay, Eva?
All right, so I would just need a motion from the board to either approve or reject the transfers as presented this evening.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the financial transfers proposed by Eva?
This is Sue. So moved.
Second?
Second, Jean.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Jean. Can I have a vote? Judy?
We have discussion or no?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Can we just amend that to put the dollar amount in there, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sue, do you want to just add the dollar amount since it's your motion? If you don't have it, I can read it for you.
Yeah, sure, if you can, yep.
Sure. So a motion, the budget appropriation transfers proposed by the business manager in the grand total of 308. Go ahead, Eva.
It's $318,105.46.
Joe, is that okay?
Yes, and I would second that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll call a vote. Judy?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes?
Rob?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion passes. Thank you. More?
Yep, one more. Thank you very much for that one. And so the last item for me is 12.3E, which is an additional transfer for Tall Timbers. So as we might remember, Tall Timbers was a not to exceed of $6,940. Back in August, the board approved an additional $540 to be paid on this contract since we do not have a bulk mail permit. In addition, there was the newsletters that went out included a little bit more than I think was originally proposed. So we're looking for an additional allowance to be paid of $455 on this contract. And the money would be coming from the field drainage project to cover this $455.
Any questions?
And just to summarize the extra expenses, one was the bulk mailing when they sent it out to each of the families. This was the first overage that you guys approved, I think, the last meeting. And because we don't mail anything anymore, RHAM no longer has a bulk permit. So we had to use, Tall Timbers has one, so it was far less expensive to use theirs, even though they don't have a nonprofit designation. To purchase one for us would be, it's very expensive. And again, that would have been a one-time thing. We just don't have cause to do those mass mailings anymore. The additional cost this time is the full newsletter. The cost for Tall Timbers for the printing was more than anticipated because we expanded from a 2-color to a 4-color document based upon all of the photos and diagrams. So.
Thank you for clarifying that, Scott. Additional questions? Okay, we need the funds from the field drainage project in the amount of $455 to the turf field project to cover postage.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Rob. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Judy. Any discussion? Okay, we'll call a vote.
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, motion passes. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
Okay, reports, committee reports, facilities, safety and transportation. I believe you guys have not met, or no minutes are on file from the September 8th meeting, okay? And we have another meeting that was moved and it's coming up, right?
It's coming up on Wednesday. Not tomorrow, but not this week, Wednesday, but a week from this Wednesday, 27th.
Okay,
But the Hebron meeting got canceled?
No, that's still on.
That is on?
Yes. So
Okay.
we had a facility subcommittee meeting scheduled for tomorrow. And then we got noticed on Friday, I think it was, that one of the unique charters for Hebron is their Board of Finance prior to November 1st must meet with the Board of Selectmen and Board of Education to have a preliminary. Obviously, nobody has the numbers yet, but it gives each party a chance to kind of project what they might be looking at. Certainly gives the Hebron Board of Finance a chance to communicate any thoughts that they may have. And we got notice that it would be helpful for RHAM to join this meeting. So with that, we needed to post one of the facilities for that. I think I sent a link to everybody. It's, what I'm told, it's, RHAM's role is less significant than the others because we're not a town of Hebron entity. Yet they wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to at least sit in on the discussion. So there's nothing definitive that comes out of it. There's nothing binding that comes out of it. It really is a general discussion to look at enrollment trends, again, where we see some of the big pieces coming as we start to prepare for our budget. So.
thank you, Scott. Finance, audit, compliance, and insurance. We canceled. No need. Eva had done a great job of keeping us up to date at this point. So our next meeting is scheduled for negotiations. Judy or Sue, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be talking about that later, won't we? Or,
Yes? We'll be
okay.
talking about the contracts for the teachers and for the nurses. Policy. It says for tomorrow, but I think that is not happening tomorrow either.
Okay, thank you. I was going to ask that question. I was on policy, and I guess I'm fine with being on policy, although I didn't know I was on it. But I did question whether it was canceled or not. So it is canceled, confirmed?
Correct, right.
Yes. Program and communication, we met about the, music and the social studies curriculum changes. Anybody want to add anything to that? Judy, EastCon or Cade?
I'm sorry, could you back up? I did
Sure.
see that there were no minutes received from the October 7th meeting. Was someone taking minutes? Do we need to set up something to take minutes? Maybe the virtual thing kind of impeded that?
I think you're right, because we have not assigned people, and I think with the number of people coming in and out in the virtual, that has not happened, so you are right about that, Jean, we do need to fix that.
Are we allowed to record it and take notes from a recording?
I don't know if we record those though.
We don't typically record subcommittee meetings.
Okay, well, we just make it easier for taking notes. I'm happy to
Correct.
help next time if you ask me, but yeah, I might be a little off focus while I'm typing on one computer, but I'm happy to help next time.
Thank you. Judy?
Yes, and I do not have any updates.
For EastCon or Cade?
Well, EastCon's meeting is always the day right after, and EastCon
Right.
is really working on its evaluation system. That's the main focus of how to evaluate during director. So, and then CABE's big focus is the conference that's coming up, the yearly conference. That's going to be one day. And it would be great if anybody can go. I think Sue may be planning to attend. So if you can go, please reach out to her. I think you get more out of it when you can compare notes and go together.
Sue, what's the date? Wants to go?
Let me look. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. November 17th maybe, but let me look really quick.
Okay, and is it an online registration for people who want to attend?
I think that you just email Scott and they have to do it because it comes out of that budget.
Okay,
Yep, anyone
Right.
interested, just let myself or Jan know and we'll register you and get you all set.
I think it's just one day this year too, right? I think it's
Yeah,
the,
that's correct. It's just one day. It is really worth going to if anybody
the 12th.
is
Yeah.
able to or has an opportunity. I'm actually out of state for a different training, so I'm not able to go this year, but it really is worth going to.
Yeah,
It's in
it's Friday, November 12th.
Sue?
It is,
Yeah.
it's at the Marriott
Okay.
in Mystic, the Mystic Marriott in Groton.
Kathleen, it's where we went before.
Yep. Thank you.
It does say that registration is closed, but they do have a waiting list. So if anyone's interested, let us know and we'll at least get us on the waiting list, if not, register.
Everybody wants to go. That's awesome.
Yes, and I think also they're limiting it because of,
Yes.
I think that's accurate because the summer workshop was limited like that.
So Sue, maybe that could be something you share if it's possible after you go. Nobody else can get in.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, public comment? Okay, hearing none. This time, we're on to informational items, calendar events for middle school and high school, 15.1. What's vision of a graduate skills and disposition?
That is, so we have a program for our students in that graduate is the kind of the school, the overriding school goals and our expectations for students. So in our advisory groups, our students work on developing those skills and demonstrating that they've developed those skills of problem solving, cooperation, that sort of thing.
Okay. Any questions regarding the calendar? Lori, you
Thank you, Kathleen. I happen to have, Scott, the enclosure of the calendar from last month's meeting. And for October 22 on that one, it says delayed opening day for students, but this one just says early dismissal, as does the calendar. So I was just wondering which one it is.
It's an early dismissal.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
let's see early dismissal in here.
Yeah, we don't have any, we used to do delayed openings, but we don't do those anymore. So those are, any of those half professional development days are early dismissals.
I thought so, but I meant to ask the question last month and then I forgot. And I had something tagged to remind myself. So when I saw it just now, I was digging through my papers to find it. So, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Lori. Any other questions regarding the calendar of events? Discipline report, middle and high school, any questions?
Looks like the discipline has gone down, trended down. Is that a fair statement?
It is,
And,
yeah.
and is that because of policy change or of student behavior, or is there some other reason?
Well, I think that part of what we're seeing is related to COVID, in that because we were in either a hybrid or last year in particular, our schedule was so disrupted by either being hybrid and having only half the number of students here on any one given day. Because remember, we were hybrid 29, so a good portion of the year just looked very different. And our kind of interpretation of this is that the physical changes that we put in place tended to put a damper on much of kind of the student behavior that we might expect to be dealing with in a given year. So I think a lot of what we dealt with last year was that. And I like to think it's also the excellent work that our staff is doing, working with our students. This year, if you're paying any attention to any of the news reports, there are some districts that are reporting significant increases in student misbehavior and even more violent student behavior in schools. So meets monthly with groups of principals from the Eastern and Shoreline schools. So it takes a lot of this, principals in this area. And for one of their last meetings, which are still remote, a lot of the administrators indicated they weren't going to be able to make it because they were too busy dealing with all the discipline that's coming their way. So, I think schools across the state have seen, some schools across the state have seen a significant update in discipline challenges since we've been back this year. And I think the sense is that kids are now back full time, and some students are having a challenge managing that return. Here at RHAM, our numbers are still comparatively very low in the districts. We are seeing an uptake of certain enrollment.
Scott and Kathleen, Chairman Goodwin, may I add something to that?
Sure.
Okay, across the state, we're seeing data that suggests that kids are having more mental health challenges as compared to other years. And I know that one of your former students is going to be, has contacted me and another parent and is going to be reaching out soon just to continue that conversation from last year on students and mental health. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, well, I think, Eric, with your question regarding discipline, Judy, I think your comments, if there were a clear picture of the need for schools and students to be in schools full time, I mean, this was certainly it. I think, we all got a taste of what happens if you break down kind of those social norms and try to put them back together again. Not everybody adapts just as easily as if nothing happened. And so, between the significant uptick in adolescent mental crises and discipline issues, it certainly is an eye-opener, I think, for all of us in terms of the importance that play, not only in academics, but in everything else as well.
And sometimes, as we know, some of those trauma responses can look like discipline, and it also borders discipline and mental health both, or includes both, I should say.
Judy, thanks for the reminder about that. That is very important.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments regarding the discipline reports from the middle and the high school?
Kathleen, Joe, I just have a follow-up question to last month's TikTok incidents. Have we seen a curtailment in that? I mean, is that the message been, conveyed to the parents and so forth? I'd like to hear some follow-up on that, please.
Yeah, Joe, that really kind of fell off altogether. So, we reached out to parents a number of times and to the community when it first started, but we haven't seen any suggestion that any of that continues beyond, one or two minor incidences that we experienced.
Great, thanks, Scott.
It was, we all, I think, one of the schools, I think, shared with the media that there's kind of a calendar, and what was presented was kind of a school year long TikTok, series of TikTok challenges. So each month it would be a different grossly inappropriate challenge that none of us want any of our students engaged in. And I'm happy to say that we haven't seen any evidence whatsoever.
Any other questions? So we need to go into executive session. Right, so we need a motion to adjourn to go into executive session.
I make a motion, we adjourn to go into an executive session. Jean?
Jean, can you add to invite the superintendent in, please?
I'm sorry, to invite the superintendent in. Sorry, never done it before.
Thank you, Jean. A second?
This is Mary. I'll second it.
Thank you, Mary. Any discussion?
Just so no, people will need to log out of this meeting and into the second session. And then following the executive session, anyone remote will need to log out of the executive session link and back into the regular meeting link so that the board can vote on any motions. So Eric, you'll stay long enough to get everybody into the executive session link, and then I'll come get you when we need to get everyone back into the regular meeting.
We need to vote Judy to go into executive session.
I think I
And
saw Judy left.
Okay, Mary,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes, good job, Eric.
Lori?
Yeah.
Jean? Did she go out?
I don't see her name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Eric,
Yes.
Yes.
and I'm a yes. All right. Thank you. Moving into an executive session.